Hello, everyone. Good evening. I believe everybody can hear me. If you cannot hear me, go ahead and drop a message in the chat. At least for now, I can see the chat. So, guys, if you can hear me loud and clear, let me know by dropping a message or an emoji in the chat. I know today is our first class. I'm seeing okay, I can see a lot of comments here in the chat. I'm excited. Tell us where you're joining from. We have a lot of people joining in. So yeah, it's good to have you all here, and it's good that we're getting more designers into the world, basically. Yeah. So, all right. Okay. Can hear me loud and clear. I can hear you. All right. I believe a lot of people can hear me, and so I think we can just go straight into the class. No long talks and all. So, my name is Wamaka Wuntu. I am a UX consultant as well as a co-founder for the Top Universe community, and I would be taking this particular class, which is basically the introduction to UI UX. So let me know once you can see my screen or you can see my slide. Basically, let's start off from there. So, if you can see my slide, let me know. Now, this class promises to be interactive. If at any point in time it feels like I'm going too fast or you're losing me, please feel free to draw my attention to it. You can drop, um, as we go along the class, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat. Would always come back to visit your questions we pro- as we proceed now or at the end of the class. But either ways, feel free to drop your questions in the chat so that you don't forget them as we go along this chat. So yeah, thank you. I think to start off the class for introduction to UI UX design, the foundations. We're basically starting off with the foundations because I want to believe that most of the people on this calls are beginners, and it's best bet to make you understand what you're going into and what to expect from being a designer. So I did like to always start off with this quote from Charles Emmas. It says, "Design is a plan for arranging elements in such a way as best to accomplish a particular purpose." Now I know that when you hear UI UX design, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, it's just design. Like, it's not just throwing things here and there as long as it's attractive. Why not? If not, yeah, I get it. But for design, I feel it's more than that. It's a whole lot more than that because design isn't just about making things appealing. It's more about how you can achieve a particular goal or basically solve a problem. Now, in the context of UI UX design, I would like to say that UI design stands for user interface, UX design stands for user experience. It means that in this aspect of design, you're looking at how your users will feel when they interact with your product. It's more than just it's more than just throwing things here. It's basically about how things work, what is the journey, what is the feeling, and then the logic behind what you're building. It's more or less how you guide a user from point A to point B or from point B to point C. But user experience is just how things work at the core. That for now, as we progress, you get to know more. Then for user interface, I would say that it's about how things feel, look. So at this point, I would like you to picture colors, typography, spacing, buttons, layout, just the same way your WhatsApp is. I think someone thought about how that would be, the color, the feel, and how to make it appealing for users to look at it and then work with it. One thing to also put in mind is that I would like to say that UI UX design is both art and science. Art and science in the sense that for art, we're coming from a place of creativity. But in as much as we're coming from a place of creativity, we have there's intuition and then there's aesthetic, meaning that for whatever app you create for users, users are supposed to find it interesting to use and then it should be eye pleasing because most times people see things before they feel it. So if what they are seeing doesn't make sense, what is the essence of it? And the science part of UI UX design, on the other hand, is more or less about research, user psychology, and problem solving and how to make sure that the design is effective. Now, it's one thing to have a very eye pleasing app and then it doesn't solve a problem, it frustrates your user. So, I would like to just go on and ask this question. How many of you have ever used an app and then you just feel frustrated? Like it doesn't make sense to you. Like you're trying to make a particular or try to carry out a particular action and then it's not making sense at all to you. If you have been in this position, you can go ahead and drop yes or no. Just let me know. Okay. So if you have been in this position, please go ahead and drop. Someone is saying I cannot see your slide. Please, if it is not clear on your end, increase your YouTube your YouTube quality so that it's clear. So, like I said, if you have ever used an app and it's frustrating, go on and say yes. If you have used an app and then it goes through smoothly, like you didn't have any issue at all, you can still go ahead and drop a comment in the session now. If either of these have happened to you, I would like to tell you that this is the power of UI UX. In UI UX, the way we design an app would either make the user feel frustrated or they'll feel frustrated because frustrated in the sense that they cannot achieve the goal they want to achieve with that app, and soothing in the sense that what they wanted to achieve went on smoothly, no challenges whatsoever. So UI UX plays a lot of role because then, like I said, it's about users, it's about psychology, it's about solving a problem or providing a solution to a problem. Now, there are certain truths I would need you to know about being a designer. One thing that should stand out for you is I'll first start off with saying that design isn't about originality. What I mean by this is that most times when we design, it's not from a place of I'm the first person to have this idea, I'm the first person to establish this particular pattern. No, whatever you want to design has already been designed and it's out there in the world. You just have to find it and see it. But what we do is we look at problems that already exist, look at solutions that might have been created for it, and then work on it to see what is wrong with it and then make it better. The idea is to accept rules that have been created. I think I'll divide a bit here. We have design rules for a reason. As we go on in this particular cohort, you get to encounter design laws. Design laws are created because these are what guide us as UI UX designers, and then we have to use them in whatever way possible, and then we don't break laws. Even in not breaking laws, it more or less links back to being design isn't about originality because in this sense, you know that it's out there. All you have to do is work on what is already existing and make it better. I would take this example for e-commerce apps. If you look at most e-commerce apps existing, they all seem similar in a way. No law was breaking. Everybody followed a particular design law, and then all they did in each of these apps is try to make it better from what the next person is doing. Then another thing you need to do, number two truth is this: designers are not consumers. I say this because designers are not users. As a UI UX designer, I did like to tell you that you don't understand how your user feel because you design to solve problems. Yeah, you have an idea about how they feel, but what you think in your head might be the actual problem, might be different from what they feel is the problem. For example, I think this is a common scenario. You have a bush path carved out when you have a road path. So instead of people taking the tarred roads, they cut through bushes because there's already a footpath. Now, the person that created that road wanted them to go through the tarred road, but somehow they felt that walking through a bush path is faster than crossing the tarred road. So you see that it's one thing for you to create a solution. It's one thing for your users to understand that this is the particular solution that should work for them and not what you think you made. So at this point, you have to understand your users, their behaviors, your target audience, and that's where research will come into play. But let's keep that at where it is and go on. I think the next part would most another truth would have to come to terms for being UI UX designers is designers must be compassionate. Now, compassion is more or less one of the cornerstone of a good design because if you do not understand your users' pain points, their motivation, their emotional state, somehow you'll not be able to help them, and then you cannot approach every challenge with compassion, because that's why we have human centered design. Human centered design was created because we are dealing with humans here, and meaning that for every problem we have to solve, users have to be at the core of it. So you're going to understand, okay, for this target audience that I'm solving a problem for, what is really their pain point? How do I fit myself in their shoes to understand that whatever design I'm going to come up with is going to address that pain point or create a solution for problem they are having at most. I think another thing here is design is not a stage, it is a core component.
All right, guys, please let's be patient. I think Maka's network glitched right there, so just let's give her about 2 minutes to join the stage. Okay, she'll be right back.
Oh, sorry about that. I am back now. I'm so sorry. I don't know, my network tripped off. Apologies about that. Please, what was the last thing you heard before I went off, so that I know where to continue from? Okay. All right. Okay, loud and clear. Thank you so much. So, like I asked, what was the last thing? I know that I simply was talking about um design not being a stage but a component, and then you had to retreat on it. Okay, understanding the user pain point. Oh wow, that okay. All right, then I'll just go on and proceed. Wow. Okay. I think when I spoke about the user pain point, that was under designers being compassionate. So if you have to understand your user pain point so that you would know how best to solve their problem, and then how best to fit yourself in their shoes, and then create the solution that is needed to be made basically. Then I think next part I was talking about was design not being its stage is a core component. Now design is not optional, it is there because we have to use it to solve a particular problem, and it means that from the beginning to the end of the project, design is continuous. It's more or less saying that for every part, humans change. Let me start with that. Humans change. So it means that every other thing would have to change in this particular design. So at some point, your design might start off looking good, looking all right, but then it would change because when you start getting feedback about the product you have worked on, how users are interacting with it, you'd come back to work on your user journey and some other things to change. Now, I don't want to go too deep because it will feel like I'm rushing you on. I want you to understand this core part. And then the next part we'll have to deal on here is simplicity does not mean minimalism. In these cases, we're saying that designers should be as clear as possible and as simple as possible. We don't need things running around. Like we don't need a lot of um simple terms. We don't need a page being too busy. What we need from an app, from a website, is for it to solve a particular problem, meaning that the design has to be clear in whatever context it is being used. It has to be easy to use. Don't make your users think. Don't make them wonder, why is there no cart button here? Why can't I find a checkout? Or why is this not here? Make sure that your design is as simple as possible, but at the same time, it should achieve the goal that is needed for it to achieve at the end of the day. So, before I move on to introduction to design principles, I would like to state this. I know it wasn't in my design slide, but I feel like it is highly important. Now, there are benefits of being a UI UX designer, and one of these benefits I would like to say is that designers are in high demand. Designers are in high demand. Like, even though we say, okay, there's the rise of AI, yeah, designers are still in high demand because unless you understand how design works, you won't be able to use an AI product. You just keep coming up with what doesn't fit what you're meant to do. So you understand the laws, and then it's easy for you to move on with that. So it means that at each point in time, anyone that is building would need a designer, because it's one thing for AI to give you what you want, is one thing for you to be sure that what it has given you suits what you need. So designers would always be in need. It has a good pay, basically. Whether you're a junior designer or a senior, you make decent money. And then as you choose to either niche down or freelance, you still make money. It's a good pay, it's a good one. Then another thing about being a designer is that you're creative and strategic. It's not just about pretty screens, but then you know what to do. And then it's about solving problems. So if you're a problem solver, great best. Yeah, in the right place. Then one thing you have to know is being a UI UX designer is usually remote friendly. Now I know there are some jobs that require you to work on site, but one thing you have to know is that it's very design friendly. Then another aspect here is your portfolio. Your portfolio speaks louder. So it means that at each time you have to make sure that you design and put things in your portfolio. You create a portfolio that should stand out for you, basically. It's not that, okay, because I'm learning, you leave it empty. Always make sure that whatever thing you're putting out there, even as much as you're showing the world what you're doing, that as you're now in this cohort, feel free to post about what you're doing. Show the world where you started from, so that when they want to get it, it's easy for them to say, oh, this person started from point A and now they're at point D or they're at point F. It's easy for them to track your journey. So remember, always show your work, and that's where your portfolio comes into play. Now, being a designer means that you have multiple career paths. There are a lot of career paths being a UI UX designer, and then you get to decide which one you would evolve in as you go along the line. For now, I would like to say that this is a great start, and you love it when you start. So there's one thing I would also say. Let me just be fast about it. I think I'm talking a lot. So another thing I would say is what is like being a designer. I think for being a designer, one thing you have to notice there are going to be morning startups where you get to meet with developers and product managers or the product team, and then you have to get used to receiving feedback. So there's something here. As designers, you're not defensive. You have to be open to receiving feedback. Even if you're defensive starting out, you learn along the line that defense doesn't help. And the best way to learn quick and fast is by being very open and accepting it. Now, it might not be easy at first, but you get a hang of it. But then you'll go on to know that, oh, you're going to have to work on wireframes. Yeah, low fidelity, high fidelity. And then you're going to learn how to prototype. And then you test with new users, asking questions. And there's a part where you have to basically iterate and all of that. So one thing you should know is that you work on different products ranging from websites to mobile apps to SaaS products to dashboard, e-commerce, design systems, and a whole lot of things. And with that, I hope you have understood the core concept of what we are going to do here as designers and who a designer should be, basically. So I think the next part we're talking about is the design principles. For design principles, we have I think here I listed about 12 or 6 of them basic about what will be for design principle. We have the contrast, balance, white space, emphasis, rhythm, movement, proportion, variety, unity, pattern, hierarchy, and repetition. Yeah. And for that, we'll take a deep dive into the principles. I know this place feels a bit tricky, but I will do my best to explain. And then don't worry about not seeing this slide clearly. It will be shared with you so you can always go over it and then move from them. I think the first thing I would like to talk about is contrast. So contrast is basically the difference between two or more objects that make them stand out. So I would say this example: if you have five green apples and then there's one apple that is red, the contrast there is that red apple, because when you have green apples, it's easy for you to point out the red apple. So just like it is, contrast is the difference between two or more objects in a design that makes them stand out. Now, I know that this I didn't expect this to be this way, but it's not so clear for balance. But just let's go with this. I'll try as much as possible to create scenes so that you can easily picture them. The next thing we're looking at here, it's going to be balance. So for balance, we're saying that it's more or less arranging, or is more or less pleasing arrangement for elements, like where it is equally distributed, the amount of visual signal on both ends, and then how it works, and the balance as well. So one thing you have to know about balance is we have two types of balance: and symmetric balance. For asymmetric, you have both items balancing evenly on each side. So I think when we say both items balancing evenly on each one, here we have is for they are not all in equal sizes, but somehow the way the items are positioned, you would understand that they all tend to complement each other. It's more or less saying that asymmetric employs elements of varying weight. So they are not all of the same size, but they are of different sizes, but somehow you're able to pick them out in a design. I think another one I would move on here is emphasis. For emphasis, we say it is a strategy used to draw attention to the users, in the sense that it creates, you can have a couple of boxes, right, or squares, and they are all black. There's one of them there that is red. So that idea to draw out that focal point where you have one red or one white out of nine, yeah. And I okay, this is not so clear enough here. But okay, I wanted to show you this particular image for emphasis, but like I said, I'll share the material with you as well. And yeah, for emphasis. And I think another thing you will play comes into play, because I said 12, is hierarchy. Hierarchy is basically the importance of elements within a design. So when you open a website, the first item that catches your attention is put there deliberately out of hierarchy, because when you create design a website or an app, there's something that you want to draw the user's attention. If it's a real estate website, the first text there is to let them know that, okay, this is what I'm doing, or this is what this website is doing, and that's why it's established. Most times you see a very big bold text, then the next one being in heading, the subheading, and then the body. Now, as you go on to learn about design, you know that these are different sizes and these are different fonts. And then one thing here is that you must at all time not, I think best design principle when using text is you don't use minimum of two font types, then maximum of three, no more than that. Then reading basically is I would say is similar to when you call musical rhythm. So the spaces between a repeating element is what we refer to as rhythm in design. Like when you have all those Ankara pants that have particular patterns on it, it's basically rhythm. The way they are arranged is just a rhythm, and then there might always be one that's different in color, or there's just something that is different. And then we can also liken them to repetition, because repetition here, it's more like or less repeating a particular object or shape to create a pattern. And yeah, And for patterns, what we use patterns to do is to draw focus or emphasis on an object so that we can distinguish between them. Now, for proportion, it's more or less the sizes of elements, and then the principles are such that draws to them. I would do well to like make this more visible and then share it with you. And then I think last but not the least that we're talking about for now is white spaces. In design, there's something called white space or negative space. It is one thing that I think the only job of the white space or negative space is that it just brings out the beauty of your design. It doesn't do anything very serious, but it's very needed in whatever design you have to do. There would always be white space to point out what needs to be shown. And then there's what we call, I think, movement. I don't think I included it here, but movement is here. So for movement, it's more or less how you control the eyes, how the eyes move from one place to another. It's similar to hierarchy, but then it's a bit different from hierarchy. So it's more or less how you guide your users' eyes, make them see what you want them to see first, and then move on. So at this point, I would like to pause and ask if there are any questions or if I'm moving too fast. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop your questions in the chat session and I can look at it. So, are there questions? Let's say, should I give 1 minute, 2 minutes for that? Just let's talk here. So, I like to pause a bit. Do we have any questions? Okay, please, for the moderators on the call, do well to highlight the questions that will possibly come back to it. So let's go on. So I think after talking all of that, talking about the principles of design, I'd like to come back to explaining UI UX. And for this particular time, I think I would go in depth in my explanation on UI UX using a house analogy. As best bet, I like to teach using terms that you can easily relate to. And so I think when we started off earlier, I spoke about UX being user experience and UI being user interface. And I think a more functional breakdown of this is me using the house. In building your house, we have foundation before the house is being built. So I would like to refer to the UX, which is user experience, here as the architect. Then for user interface, I would like to refer to it as the interior decor, basically. Now for interior decor, now rather sorry, let me go back. For UX, I would say UX is more about the blueprint, like I said. What are we planning? Like, how are we going to get this done? Is this meant to be here? If I'm using, I would like to say user experience functions on usability, functionality, and overall experience. Now, there's a lot of entities to it, but I wouldn't want to go too far. So, in this case, if we're using the house that we're building. We have to look at the structure of the house, the layout, how many rooms you have in the house, the plumbing work, electricity, and all of that. All these things I've just listed when looking at building a house, the same thing you get to look at when building an app. But in this sense, you're looking, it's still same thing, Sha. You're looking at usability, functionality, and the overall experience. So we're saying, what is this app supposed to solve? What is the actual problem we're solving with this app? Who are the users of this app, and how best do we know what to do or what features should go in? Because you might say, okay, you want to solve a problem around e-commerce. Now we have a lot of e-commerce apps out there, so what are we really solving in it? It's just like saying that we have a lot of houses out there. You want to build a house that will stand out. What would make that house stand out? What would make it different from every other house we have that's existing there? Now no shades to Lagos State, but if I were to say that you're building houses, better houses in Lagos State, not the tiny cubicle ones that have very small spaces, you want it bigger and all of that. Probably you're solving a problem because not everybody likes tiny houses. What are you solving and how best can you solve it? And is it going to be structural? How habitable is it going to be? And then linking it to the UI part, where we said UI is interior decor. We're looking at paint, furniture, and decor. So we're saying um what is the furniture going to be like? What are the paint choices? What are the colors? It's just like looking at your app and asking yourself, okay, what is the color that we're going to use, what is the primary color, secondary color we're using when building this particular website or when building this app. I think we'll talk about color theory as we move further. But why we're looking at it this way is that every app or every industry has a color that is peculiar for them, meaning that I might want to build a healthcare product, and one of the colors that is peculiar to them is red, sorry, blue, then a bit of red. And real estate has its own ups and downs, because I imagine that I want to make a purchase from an e-commerce site, and then I open it up and everything is littered with red. Now, red is known for danger, flight, or fright or flight. So why is everywhere looking red? Is I came to buy provision and not to run away, right? So yeah, it's something to look at as well. Then it's just like I said, UI focuses on the visual element. So the font, the type of font we're going to use, the typography, is it clear enough? Can everyone see it? Is it visible enough? Is it readable? And then remember, we spoke about it being human centered, meaning that we have to create design for accessibility as well. A design that everyone can see and use, whether they are colorblind, they are blind. There has to be ways that we're going to look at that. That is me going in depth. But let me run back here. Yeah. So that's what we're going to look at here. And it's just same thing for the house. The way you build a house from start to finish will determine whether you'll be able to sell it off as a great price, both for interior and exterior. It's the same way you would create an app that users will be able to use, whether it's going to be frustrating or it's going to be a smooth experience for the users. Is something that you as a designer would have to come in terms and so moving on, I would like to clarify on the roles UI UX plays in all of this. Now for UX, which is the designer, and like I said previously, I liken them to the architect. So the UX part of design says that we're going to conduct user research. So in user research, we have to understand who are my users, what are their behaviors, what are their needs, and what motivates them, and how best can we solve their problem. So user research tells you that okay, you're working on an e-commerce app. What exactly are you solving? We have e-commerce apps selling FMCGs, which is fast moving consumer goods. So what part of e-commerce are you solving? Are we looking at solving for construction? Are we looking at for solving for medical? Whatever it is, there has to be something that we're looking forward to here when we're looking at research, because we have to be sure that we're not just solving a problem that is broad. We would have to narrow it down to solve an actual problem, the main problem. And that's why you have to understand your users' behaviors, their needs, and what to solve. Another thing that comes into play in UX part of design is information architecture. It's more or less saying that okay, the information we have, how best can we structure it? How best can we put it in such a way that it's accessible and know what and how to make it work for us, or understand the flow users have when dealing with this. Then the next part you have to deal with is wireframing and prototyping. This has to do with you creating low to high fidelity mockups and flow. So I think most of you might have seen sketches where someone just made a sketch of a website, crossed it to show certain things. If you had done a bit of research, you might have seen that. So all those sketches here are wireframes, and then we have low fidelity and high fidelity. Low fidelity is when you have it in sketches and it's not really formed out, but then whoever drew it knew what they are trying to achieve. And WhatsApp is high fidelity. It has already been designed, developed, colors in place, all functionality placed. That is it. The YouTube app you're using, this is a high creating a flow and letting users see how it's going to be. Usability test in this case is saying, okay, now we have identified the pain points. We have created the app, and usability is having real users like us test it. The one thing you have to know is that the more we keep using the apps we use, be it WhatsApp, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, we are being watched how we use the app. And that's why you feel that at times Facebook just makes certain changes. They didn't make the change because they wanted to or because they felt it was time to make the change. They made the change because in the process of using the app, they have seen how best user interact with their app, and they see that okay, this thing might not be needed. It's time to take it off and put something there that is actually needed by the user. And that's what happened in usability testing, because now they have created the app to solve the problem. where you can easily communicate. But for usability testing, they are saying that okay, this might work, this does not work, take it out, add this, and put all of this. So that's that. Then for interaction design, it's more or less button clicks, navigation, this, that, and yeah. So if you're following me, please go ahead to drop a message. Let me know that you are following me. Yeah. All right. So how many people are following me? Please. Chat is quiet. I hope this is no information overload. Okay, following. All right. So I think I would just go and then for UI UX. For the UX part of design, like we said earlier on, it's visual. We're looking at the visual aspect, choosing color palette, typography, iconography, and imagery. So here you're saying, okay, we are building this app. What is the best color used in this industry? How best do we function with it? How best do we make it play out? So you're looking at that. So you know that okay, I'm using one or two colors. You have the primary, secondary colors. Like I said, typography, you can use minimum of two fonts, maximum of three. Anything more than that might be confusing to your users. And that's where UX laws will come into play as you progress into the class. Then we have layout and spacing. So layout and spacing is very important because you don't want things cluttered, and then you don't want people not. You want your users to be able to read what you have here, right? So you're saying, okay, I want to read. I created this app and it's very readable. Whether you are short-sighted, long-sighted, you're a bit colorblind, you should be able to see what is done here in this app. And then we have the branding and consistency, making sure that the interface works fine, and your branding aligns across board on every platform that it looks on every screen. I think an example I would give here is Google. If you have come across any of Google products, immediately you see it, you know it's Google. Because one thing they have done is make sure that their branding is consistent. Fonts, text, colors, everything is very consistent and it is just what it is. Immediately you see it, you know it's Google. Then interactive elements, more or less your buttons and interactive components. For those that do animation, yeah, we can say that that's where we have micro interactions, animations come into play here. But I think one thing I would like you to also notice as designers at times you get to wear many hats, so it depends. And most times, most companies you get to function as a UI UX designer. That's two roles in one, and it's a good thing because it gives you an edge at first. I think the next part of this class is the UX design process. Now, for design process, we have five major processes. Some people might say it's more, but I think this is the five that has stood so far in the industry. And the first part of this is empathize. I spoke about that earlier. You have to be empathetic. You have to have a deep understanding of your users because that is the only way you can understand their standpoint. You can understand their pain points. And in empathizing with users, we have to use different methods to get the response of feedback. And one of these methods here is user interviews. So what are the interviews we have, right? You interview your users, give them a product, let them test it. We have few tests. That's why I think there are times you use an app and something pops up and they're asking you to say, take this survey, let us know how we are doing. The minute you start taking that survey, they're trying to understand how well their app is working and what they can do to improve it and what designs can be changed or majorly the process. When you fill that form, you give them heads up on what to make changes to and how best to proceed, right? And then there are field studies where you have UI UX designers go to meet different people in a particular place, ask them questions about certain things, and there's what we call personnel creation. In personnel creation, you're creating someone similar to your users that have certain behaviors with them because you want to understand them. And there are times that designers have to watch people to understand that okay, why is this person behaving like this? I believe that before we had cars driving themselves, they had to watch users. So we had researchers go in and watch people drive and see how they interact and try to more or less to understand the process because for you to have a car drive itself, it means you have to understand how humans drive it before you can make a prototype that suits that and then test it out to make sure that it will drive itself successfully without killing anybody and obey all signs that are needed. Yeah. Then another part is we're saying is define. Like I said earlier, we have to define the insights being built. If you're building an e-commerce app, what are you building it for? Is it for construction? Is it for medicals? What else? You have to be sure that I'm not just solving a problem that is a broad problem. I am going down to solve the actual problem here. And I'm looking at it to make sure that it is the actual problem. So here, when you have analyzed the research data and all of that, that is what you are counting on here. Then ideate. In ideation, it's more or less a clear, when you have defined your problem, we are not saying, okay, how do we work on the solution? I think this is the part where I talked about designers having to work with developers and product team for those that get to work with teams. Now, why this happens is that in building a product, it's not a one man thing, basically. Now, as a designer, you get to find out, okay, what is wrong? What are their pain points? What am I solving? What am I designing? How best do I approach it? But at the same time, you have to work alongside developers and product managers, because what you feel like, how you feel this animation should work, a developer might be nice to tell you that that wouldn't work so well, and this is the best way to do it, so that we avoid the designers and developers warfare that is always going on. Yeah. So and then when you tend to ideate with other members, that's the product team as well, you now understand that, okay, we are not just designing, like I said, for aesthetics. We are looking at user behaviors, meaning that there are certain features that would have to be placed as priority, and then the product managers help out with that and tell us what, how best, or what features we're looking at. Because like I said, design is continuous, it doesn't end. So the features you have today might have to change tomorrow, meaning that certain things would have to happen, and that all comes to play in ideating, because while brainstorming and then we're mind mapping, you would do this as you progress as well. I've talked about prototype. I don't think I need to dwell much on this, but if you have done the first one, two, three, and then you have moved on to design, you can have your prototype done. Your prototypes are usually testable. It's more or less seeing that, okay, how this is working. Like if any of you have ever involved yourself in user testing or other surveys that they pay you for, yeah, sometimes you get to see prototypes of apps. You don't even know what company it's for, but you just know that they give you something and then they ask you to test it, and then you see how best you navigate. The moment you navigate on that particular app that you're giving, it tells you what to do next and how best to work with it. And that is your test. There's something I found out while I was making this note. I also got to find out that Instagram button, or the like button on Instagram, was iterated over 50 times. And in my head, I'm like, ah, it's a like button. Why was it traded on 50 times? I believe that they had to test the buttons. What are the shapes? What are the animations? The feedback mechanism, like how best do they get users to click on like, whether the height icon was the best or the thumbs up icon. Now, if I ask any of you on this call, did you notice when the like button we shape? I don't think you might have noticed that. So yeah, that's one thing you have to know as well. I think that's one fun fact. Then there's what we have. What we like to, it means that it is fast and familiar. When you see something, it just works. It's just like when you come across other e-commerce app. You're already used to using a particular e-commerce app, so the next one you see, it's easy for you to use. That's what we talk about design laws, familiarity. You have laws that have been placed, so you just look at these laws and follow them. So that way, it's easy for you to use any app. I think, and they have certain things. So good designs are fast and familiar. Two, they are uncluttered, meaning it's easy for you to see. Okay, so can okay, I'll come back to that question later, please. Feedback. And one thing I would like to say is one example I would give here is Google. The minute you open Google search, like seeing it, it's just like a pathway to freedom. I don't think Google search is strange to anyone. It's that is good design is straight. I'm looking for something, I get it, and then it gives me the answers I want. Then we have bad design. Bad design is okay, these are fictional characters basically. So it does not actually, the button does not light up. It has confusing labels, and then there's no feedback. Like when you're looking at the website, you're asking yourself, please, what am I supposed to do here? I don't understand. And this example I have it on. So if I'm going to the top floor, the second floor, I'm going to, how do I know what to press? How do I know how is it going to work? How do I direct the elevator to take me to where I'm going to? I think if I were the one in this elevator, I'll just step out. It's better I climb the staircase because at this point I don't know what to press and I don't want to be confused. I think there's a book I would tell you should read. Don't make me think. Then I think I've come to the last part of my slide. If you're wondering what I look like, this is my face. So yeah, this is a Q&A time. Remember, no question is wrong, no answer is wrong. We're all learning here. And yes, so it's time for me to take your questions. I believe I have a lot of questions in the chat. So I will start going through the chat or yeah, so let's highlight it here. I think I am seeing this particular question. So it's saying, I think this popped up. I would like to have it on the screen. Yeah. It's saying can UXI be used for any design? Now, truth is, when you say UX, I am tempted to ask, like, I would want to say, what is that? But let me just go ahead to answer your question. So, it feels like it is an acronym, right? I think I've come across it, but it's not actually an acronym because it is neither a tool or a software for designing, and neither is it an industry standard tool for designing. So it means that if you want to look at tools that you use for design, I would ask you to look up tools like Figma, Adobe XD, Sketch, Lunacy, or any other design tool out there. But for this particular training, we'll be looking at Figma. Figma being that as of 2025, Figma is more like a standard in the design, a standard design tools. Now we have others, but Figma is the most popular. So let me not throw shades on any other product. We have other design tools, Adobe XD, Sketch, Lunacy, and the likes. So maybe whatever content UXI was used, I believe it is a mix up because it's either UX or UI UX or something. But yeah, I think yes, that is that. So what other questions do we have here? So guys, if you have questions, please you can go ahead and drop your questions. I don't think I'm seeing any other question here. Um, wow. Do we have other questions? I can't find any other questions. Are you saying that you understand the class from start to finish? If that is what is happening, then wow, we are all in for an interesting ride. But I think quick heads up. I would like I said earlier, we're looking at Figma. We're going to be using Figmas for all our design. So you should sign up on the Figma platform if you don't already have an account there. You should also get Notion, and then we would also be using Whimsica. I think those are the three platforms. If there any other thing we would have to use, we will let you know as the class progress. And now I'm seeing questions about the LMS. Now just sign up on the LMS. You have things there from between today and during the week. Videos and materials will be dropped in your LMS, and then your assignments would come in the LMS as well. So that's one thing for you to take note of. Please stay close to your WhatsApp and your Discord app as well as your emails because most times you get emails as head ups before even the information is dropped. So please always be on the lookout for mails that will be coming from us as well. progress in this particular training, you currently have your attendance form in the chat session. Plus, so please go ahead to fill your attendance because if you're part of the onboarding, it would said you need 70% for you to how do I put it? You need 70% for you to make it to the project phase of this training. So yes, that is very important. Always fill your form, your attendance form. I think okay. It said what makes a UI UX designer unique. All right. I think we're going to talk about uniqueness here. A UI UX designer is unique because let me use the word creativity combining science and art, and then knowing that you have to solve a problem, and then knowing that what you create solves an actual problem and not just for aesthetics. So you are solving users problem, you are making them feel okay, and then you're making the world a comfortable place for everybody basically. Because for each whatever problem you solve using UI UX design, you make the world a better place. I think that's what I would say from my experience. Yeah. So that's what makes a UI UX designer unique. There are other ways you are unique, but that's one that stands out to me. So I'm saying you said a minimum of 2 to 3 fonts doing design. Why? So why I said that is that when you have to work on an app, website or mobile app, we use 2 to 3 fonts. Reason being that we're trying to establish hierarchy here, and then we have certain things that come into play. So the minute you have more than 3 fonts, what you do is you throw the users off guard because it's easy for people to familiarize themselves with 2 fonts. It's easy, comes very easy for them. But in cases where you now have 3, 4 fonts, take note, these fonts are not, they don't belong to the same family, right? I think we'll talk about the different type of fonts later on. But these fonts are likely not to belong to the same family. So it means that you're not making your users think. They are wondering, oh, I saw this font on my landing page. This is another page. Why am I seeing this font here? Why am I seeing that? Am I still on the same page? The idea is y- users are familiar to a particular thing, and it's best bet you don't throw them off guard. So having three or more throws your user off guard. So that's why it's best to stick to 2 or 3. Preferably, me, I rather say stick to two because that way we know that we're using Poppins and which one now? Let's just say if we're using Poppies and one other font, I don't know what names are not coming to my mind right now. Or whatever font you're using is best bet. Just use two. Yeah, that. Yeah. So what other question do we have here? We have 1 minute before the class is over. So please ask your question. Someone is asking for the attendance form. Oh, you can't have I don't think the forms are locked, so have a look at it again. That might be a network thing, but none of the forms are locked. Yeah. So fill your attendance. Kindly note that the attendance are not dropped in the chat. So it's best bet to fill it now. Just fill it now. Fill it now. Fill it now. Fill it now. So fill it now. Just go on, reload your page. Fill it now. Maybe it's network, but please go ahead and fill the form now. Form is accepting. So yeah, go ahead and fill it now. So I think please try again and fill it. So give you 2 minutes for you to fill that form, and yeah, that's that. If you have any more questions, you have your groups on WhatsApp as well as on Discord. So if you're not on the Discord server, please do well to be on the Discord server. You join your various channels so that you can easily ask questions and interact. And then one more thing, if you're yet to follow us on YouTube or any of our channels, please go ahead to follow us on YouTube as well. So you currently have our Discord channel being displayed on this link or on the video or on the screen. So yeah, do that. So I believe we are all good to go. Esther, please go ahead and try again. I want a final feedback on this, guys. If you've been able to fill the attendance form, just go ahead and drop an emoji there. Let's know that you have filled that form. Thank you. Yeah, just let us know that you've been able to fill that form so that we can end the class. So, yeah. So, thank you for joining this session. Like I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Go through this class, learn more. Your materials will be sent across to you. All right, someone has filled that form, so it means that the form is good to go. So, bye everyone. We'll see you in your next class. Bye.